Alrighty, let's start today off with the three pairs that you guys chose. So you guys chose for me to map out AU, EA, and last but not least to map from scratch CAD JPY. Okay, so starting with AUD USD, something to be mindful of is we do have high impact news later in the evening that's going to affect USD pairs. Alright, so if you find pairs that are crossed with USD not moving until then, that could be the reason behind it. Okay, because sometimes the pairs need that decision of the news whether it's going to bring the price up or down to affect the market, right? To create movement in the market. So something just to be mindful of. If you are someone who likes to wait for the US session to trade, but you like to scalp, then you can use these zones to scalp until the news is released. Or if you want to have a low risk trade, better to wait for the news to be released first. Or if you decide to catch an entry and you find a proper setup for an entry, if it's running in profits and the news is about to be released, you can either set break even or TP. Okay, that is completely up to how you manage your account. So AU, we have three zones. I have two sell zones up here where the current price is also at, and I have my buy zone down below. So what can AUD USD do, right? I'm gonna monitor this zone. Why are we monitoring the zone where the current price is in? Is because we need to see if H4 will respect this zone right here. Because if it does, and H4 decides to close within the zone and create a sell setup, then there's a potential for us to catch a sell down into our buy zone, right? But if it doesn't and it decides to push the price up and break our zone, it can either potentially want to test our higher zone, or we can also wait for the price to retrace back into our key level to look for a buy setup into our upper sell zone. Okay, vice versa, same thing. If it drops into our buy zone and respects it, then we can look for a potential buy. But if it breaks below, then there's a potential for it to test lower areas or lower zones. Since we are using H4 or the 4-hour time frame candle to map our zones, we can go ahead and find our confirmations or setups in M5 or M15, but stick to M15 first because that's the higher time frame, right? The higher the time frame, the bigger the movement. So if you can find something in M15, then great. But if not, then you can go down to M5 to get an even sharper entry while waiting for M15 to form that setup that you want. Okay, so that's for AUD USD. Next, EA. Okay, EA, I have my sell zone up top over here where the price recently in the previous H4 just closed and created an engulfing buy that failed, meeting an engulfing sell. Price came back in where this previous H4 closed as an engulfing sell, and we have our second engulfing sell. Okay, so we have a sell zone up top over here, and our buy, which is an engulfing buy, meets an engulfing buy. Okay, current price is in the middle, so something that we need to see if it's going to retrace back in to test our sell zone or drop to test our buy zone. Okay, so again, EA, what are we going to do? We're going to wait for either it to test our zones, right? If it comes into the buy or sell zone, we have to see if the H4 will continue to respect the zones, because if it can, then we can try to catch a sell from our sell zone and a buy from our buy zone. But if it breaks above or below the zones respectively, then we can either wait at the next zone available, or we wait for the price to retrace back into our key level to look for the opposite direction of a setup. Okay, SLs, again, if you are someone who do not have time to be on the charts to monitor if it's going to break the zone for you to cut your losses, or you don't know where you're going to exit the trade and potentially close the trade manually if you're going into losses, then set SL. Okay, SLs are there to help manage your losses so you don't lose more than what you expect. So the normal pips that I usually suggest is 40 pips from entry. Okay, meaning after you have entered, this depends on how sharp you can get an entry, but 40 pips is enough, right? Not too tight, not too loose, for the price to move a little bit before going the direction that you want. Okay, so something to try out. All right, last but not least, we have CAD JPY, and I will be